Welcome, everyone, to the first live on YouTube or perhaps Twitch edition of the Locked On Cavs podcast. We're going to do a bunch of fun stuff today, talking about the schedule, talking about the roster, answering your questions, a whole bunch of really fun stuff. But, Evan, how are you doing on this fine evening?
Good. I'm good. We're matching, which is kind of cute.
That's right.
It's not like we planned this or anything,
Well,
but I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good transparencies. I saw Evans wearing his Locked On shirt, and I figured, you know what? I'm gonna do the same because we're just rolling here. But again, today's episode is a live edition of Locked On Cavs. It is also brought to you by Wednesdays on the Locked On NBA podcast. It's small market meets big market. Wednesdays on Locked On NBA. Join Jake Madison from Locked On Pelicans and John Corrales of Locked On Celtics for a look at the NBA week from all angles. Follow the Locked On NBA podcast today wherever you get your podcasts.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Evan, let's just start by talking about the NBA schedule. We have not talked about this shit. Obviously, it came out on Friday. I think there's a bunch of different ways you could kind of react to it and analyze it, think about it. I think you wrote a really smart piece about this over at your new platform over at Bulletin. I think the idea that the beginning of the schedule is very, very difficult is a very apt and obvious thing to get into because fact check, it's going to be a really tough start to the schedule. But overall, it feels to me like we're getting really quick here into the season, and that it's going to come really, really, really fast in a way that I think is kind of interesting to consider for us.
Oh, it really is weird to think about because, in all honesty, September is right around the corner, and training camp is towards the end of September, and then preseason follows, and then the season starts in late October. It's going to come fast. It's going to come hard. And speaking of fast and hard, the opening to this Cavs schedule is going to be tough too. Like, people are really wringing their hands over this, and rightfully so, I think. Opening up the season against Memphis is a weird draw. Like, I don't know what the Grizzlies exactly are doing right now because they have the potential to be a playoff team, but they keep making moves that a rebuilding team would do. And you caught for the Grizzlies a little bit more closely. If Sean Coleman happens to be watching, hopefully he's not clutching his pearls right now. And then you go back to Atlanta and Charlotte in a back-to-back. You open up the season you open up your homes. You make your home debut. That's what I'm looking for here. At home against Charlotte. Like, that's not an easy draw either. You have LaMelo Ball. You have Gordon Hayward. They made a couple lateral moves, I think. Like, I think James Bouknight's going to be pretty good for them, too. I think Charlotte has the potential to be a play-in team, depending on how LaMelo Ball has transformed a little bit. And if Gordon Hayward can stay healthy, like, those two are the key pieces for them. And, like, PJ Washington's fun. Miles Bridges is fun. It just sucks because you have to play the Eastern Conference finalists Atlanta Hawks the following night, and Atlanta is more or less the same team heading into this upcoming season. They have a lot of swagger. They have a lot of determination. I think Trae Young is really going to be a tough test for Isaac Okoro because JB's strategy, at least, is to put Isaac on the best perimeter player. And then you have to go out and play Denver, which historically Cleveland hasn't performed well. I know you and I were saying, like, okay, they're going to play Detroit, then they played Denver when John Boehline was still coaching, and the Cavs had like one of their best wins under John Boehline in Denver.
That was the peak of the John Boehline era. Like, I think
he quit soon after that, didn't he?
It was very, very, very soon after that.
Okay, so I'm glad the timeline's lining up in my head. Then you have both LA teams, and the LA Nightlife's undefeated, even in a COVID-riddled world, even with the Delta and Lambda variant. That's going to be tough. And then you have to go to Phoenix, which, battled with the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Finals. And then you wrap things up again in Charlotte before you come home to play Portland. And then you go back on the road again to play New York and Toronto. Like, that's tough. And yeah, it's tough, but like in my piece for Bulletin, and it's the proper name's right down Euclid, I guess, if I want to get technical with it. This is a good test of adversity for the Cavs too. Like, more than anything, like, you can really key in on, okay, is JB Bickerstaff have the pulse of this team? How is this team going to face adversity? Because this isn't even the worst road trip that Cleveland has lined up. And we can talk about that in a bit, but we're really going to have a gauge of what we should get from this Cavs team early on in this year. And also it could be a blessing in disguise too, because if the Cavs respond well to this and they play well and they kind of battle through some of the toughness of this schedule, it could turn into a pretty strong season for them. Like, diamonds are made under pressure, and pressure makes diamonds in this situation. Just reiterated the same point, and maybe the Cavs really could have a gem after this trip.
Well, yeah, I think to kind of my version of this would basically be that I kind of think that the early season will tell you how patient the Cavs brass currently is going to be. I mean, like, they can say all the things they want right now about like believing in the process and believing in JB Bickerstaff and all these things, but like push comes to shove, or like, are they going to be willing to weather an early season storm if the starting lineup's really young and struggles at times, if Evan Mobley isn't maybe producing in the way you would sort of hope right as he starts his NBA career? Like, there are things they're going to be navigating that are going to be really potentially fascinating for them to kind of figure out in real time. And I think that'll tell us as much about like what the team, I think more so to me, like what the organization sort of feels is going on versus what the team really is. I mean, I think like we need the full collective. I think we need to like give everyone time to really acclimate and kind of figure some stuff out before we make some really snap judgments. But like they could put themselves behind the eight ball very early. And I think that Charlotte game is a good game to highlight, because like that's a team that I know like that Kobe Altman has talked about like wanting to get to like Atlanta or get to like the Phoenix stuff. Like those are the teams he cited in his end of the season media availability. But like Charlotte is a team that was like 6 points better per 100 possessions. They have LaMelo Ball, they have Terry Rozier, they have Gordon Hayward. Like they have good players, even if they're a little thin at center with like Mason Plumlee and Kai Jones at this point. The Cavs are in a position where like you have to catch that team before you can even talk about really like the very, very good teams in the NBA. So like there's just a situation there where I think if you're them, you're trying to say, okay, how do we stack up against this team that's like a more of a play-in team, still very solid, really well coached under James Borrego, has a guy in LaMelo Ball who is sensational. I mean, like I kind of so just good. like how the Cavs defend him will be really interesting. I mean, like, do you put a core on him and like risk having?
Can we have an aside real quick?
Yeah.
Do you think the Warriors regret not taking LaMelo and taking Wiseman?
I would.
I would too, because yeah, I know I say if I'm a firm believer of there's a reason why you're drafting that high, and I think the Warriors will have forever FOMO of not taking LaMelo. But continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one. Here's a couple other games that I've kind of highlighted as ones that I am quite interested in, and these are all like more in pre like March, right? Like I kind of like I don't want to look so far ahead because we don't know what injuries will look like and things by that point, and it's hard to speculate for me that far ahead. Like my brain just can't process like watching basketball next May, basically,
Oh yeah,
or April, I should say. But here's a couple other games that I've highlighted. November 7th, Monday, Cavs at the Knicks. Last year, the Cavs went 1-2 against the Knicks. Okay, so both those losses were pretty one-sided. Looking back, I remember at the time thinking, okay, the Cavs like might really stink because they lost to the Knicks and really struggled against them. Turns out that the Knicks were like a really solid team, 4th seed in the Eastern Conference, 11th best net rating in the league according to Cleaning the Glass. Like, I expect them to regress a little bit. But like that is another good gauge for Cleveland. Like, how competitive are you early in the season against a team that like probably should be in that 5-9 range in the East, something like that, right? Like I think that's like a good gauge for Cleveland. What do you think about that answer as a game to watch?
Yeah, I think the Knicks game is a good game to watch because also, correct me if I'm wrong, aren't the Knicks a team that the Cavs kind of hope they can compare to in terms of just like youth resurgence? Was it more Atlanta and Phoenix? But am I lumping the Knicks into my mind? You're
lumping the Knicks in your mind, but it's not a bad one because they've had veterans, but not like superstar veterans. Like Julius Randle was really like a guy who surged in a way that was not like Devin Booker popping with Chris Paul or something like that, right? Like it was a little bit different. So that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, another one, February 8th, Cavs versus the Chicago Bulls. Look, the Bulls are a team that also, like the Cavs, wants to at least get in the playoff, if not the play-in. Unlike the Cavs, they had money to spend and were really able to put their gas on the pedal to improve right now by paying for Lonzo Ball, by paying for DeMar DeRozan, by paying for Alex Caruso. The Cavs obviously have not added a single outside free agent this offseason. Like, there's also just some schematic stuff in terms of, like, I want to see Okoro defend Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan a lot. Like, that sounds awesome. Like, a good way to spend a Wednesday evening in my books. But it's also another team that like
is that a Wednesday?
It's a Wednesday.
It's the day before I turn 29, which is going to be like one of the worst days of my life because it means I'm just teetering the edge of turning 30. It makes me sick.
Hey, who among us? But like that is a situation where like that's another team. It's like how do the Cavs stack up against this team that should theoretically be in the play-in?
Yeah, and Chicago is an interesting matchup too because I think they were probably the most disappointing team last year in the league. Like, they went all in to get Vucevic. They went with Levine and Vucevic. They seriously tried to make a push to make the play-in, and they weren't even close. They lose their pick to Orlando, and I don't know what Orlando's going to do with it because they got Suggs and Wagner out of it, which, isn't a bad pickup for either side, but or for Orlando, I should say, rather. But, yeah, they really went all in. They got DeMar DeRozan. They get Lonzo Ball. Like on paper, like in Pat Williams at the 4 for them, like on paper, this team seems like it's going to slap, but also they could be pretty mediocre. And if the Cavs beat them and like it seems like it could be a meaningless matchup at first, but like that game could have a lot of weight towards the end of the season when like, let's say Cleveland is making a push, or even Chicago, who should be making a push for the playoffs, or God forbid the play-in. Like if they lose to Cleveland in February, like that could come back to haunt them in the worst way. And I don't know. Yeah, like you said, I think Isaac Okoro he's bigger, he's stronger. I think him on Zach LaVine would be a hell of a lot of fun. I think Hal Mobley has to defend Vucevic and maybe even Pat Williams. Like that's going to be interesting too. But Allen on Vucevic is going to be interesting too because I think Allen has struggled against Nikola Vucevic, if I'm correct here.
Well, I think Allen's still has growth in terms of defending more perimeter oriented pick and pop bigs a little bit. So
yeah, so like that's just an interesting matchup in itself. Maybe the Cavs get freaky with it and they get some Kevin Love out there too because Vucevic, isn't a world beater defensively either. And maybe they exploit that matchup a little bit, a la Ty Lue on Andre Drummond in the playoffs. Such a fun time. But buddy, that's like one of my favorite moments is literally the Cavs went out of their way to make Andre Drummond have zero impact in that playoff series. Like they put Kevin Love on him every single offensive possession. They said, go ahead, try and defend him on the perimeter. And he couldn't. And maybe that's what inspired Andre. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe Andre was this double agent for Detroit the whole time. And he started shooting it from 3 because the Cavs tortured him on the perimeter. But yeah, I think Chicago's an interesting matchup. But how about we put a pin in this? Let's get a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll talk more about the schedule because there's more I want to break down with this. Like I want to talk about this road trip. That's the bad one, at least.
And I have one more game that is a classic, like, Cavs young team struggles in this environment game, which is a good tease for the break. But as you mentioned, we got to pay some bills. And first up is our friends at Sweatblock. You have, I think, if you listen to the show, have heard a lot about Sweatblock. And now look, this is doctor created, doctor recommended. It works up to 7 days.
Sweatblock right now. Like I smell amazing.
Fresh. Dry shirt guarantee. If Sweatblock doesn't keep you dry, you get your money back. That's great. Featured and tested on the Rachel Ray Show by firefighters. Think about like dudes who sweat. Firefighters, like literally like big suits going into fires, really manly dudes. Firefighters
perform live in front of Rachel Ray. Like there's pressure all over there.
It's a lot of pressure. It's a bestseller on Amazon for the past 10 years, has over 13,000 reviews, and is manufactured in the U.S. Look, sweating is not fun. You want to be able to have some extra confidence. You want to wear what you want to wear. You want to be able to wear a gray shirt in the summer, right? Like sometimes you just have a nice fitting gray tee. You have a golf polo that maybe you don't want to sweat through. Sweatblock can kind of help you look great, smell great, and keep clean. And they have a bunch of other great products aside from these Sweatblock wipes that are fantastic. They have these Sweatblock antiperspirant wipes that we love here on Locked On Cavs, but they have a bunch of other great products too. If you are someone who loves dealing with this, you have to check out Sweatblock. Get it today for 20% off at sweatblock.com with the promo code Locked On, or at Amazon and CVS.
Today's episode of Locked On Cavs is also brought to you by DirecTV. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite show, and you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before so that you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
All right, Evan. So let's do my last game, then we'll talk about the road trip. Cavs at Pacers.
Ooh, that is a
Okay.
good one.
February 11th. Number one, let's go back to the
I'll be full
pre-LeBron
on
Kyrie.
depression mode at that point because I'll be 2 days into being 29 and I will not be feeling 20 fine. Maybe that'll be my caption, is 29, 20 fine. So.
There's a 29. My anxiety is keeping me alive. I think there's an MGK lyric about being 29 and having a lot of anxiety. So.
Either way. But
either way,
more about the.
So,
I know what you're talking about too.
Okay.
In terms of young players, this game has
back.
always stuck in my craw.
Yeah. So let's go back to pre-LeBron, Kyrie Irving, Tristan Thompson, Deion Waiters, that era of young Cavs players. They had a really hard time going to Indiana and winning.
Oh,
Indiana, in so many ways, is like the Cavs' like better performing like older brother, because like they're stable. They're in like they may be like switch jobs every once in a while, but they're consistently like performing, putting up good numbers, making the playoffs for like over 2 decades. They're dependable, right? The Cavs are a little more up and down, a little all over the place, a little Dennis Rodman in The Last Dance, like just zipping all over the place, not telling you which way he's going. That's also, by the way, how Martin Rickman gives directions, but that's a story for another day. The Pacers are this team that also are built as they are now. Rick Carlisle, a really good coach. They have Domantas Sabonis and Miles Turner up front. If you want to talk about a test for the Mobley-Allen duo, assuming like that is the starting duo, assuming that duo plays a lot of minutes together, et cetera, all the caveats that we need to give because it's still August and we don't know what's going on with a lot of stuff at this point. We haven't seen definitive news, I should say, about some of that. The Cavs are in the spot there where like Mobley could have to defend Sabonis in like the pivot, and like that is good experience for him. But like we're gonna see how strong he really is at this point against a guy like Sabonis, who is absolutely a bruiser inside. Turner's no joke either. Both really good defensive player. Or I should say Turner's a very, very good defensive player. Sabonis is a very, very good offensive player, really good screener, really physical big. How the Cavs do against that duo, a team and against a team that has like Malcolm Brogdon, that has TJ Warren. That has Karis LeVert now, that has like a lot of stuff and is good and has Rick Carlisle as head coach. Like that's just a good test. And again, it's historically been a place that young Cavs teams have struggled to win in. It's like a decade thing. It's sort of like a sports writery kind of like, can they win on the road kind of like checkmark box that I'm checking off here. But in terms of like in-division road games against like a team historically that has been a problem, I just like looked at the schedule and was like, oh, this is kind of like a fun time of the year for us to see where Cleveland is going to be at against Indiana.
Yeah, I think that really is a good shout out. That's why I said, ooh, good pick when he first said it, because I like the Pacers, like what they're doing, what they're building. You should check out, for those listening later or check out Caitlin Cooper's work, check out our colleague Mark Schindler's work on the Pacers. They provide excellent coverage, but Caitlin really breaks down like the nitty gritty of.
Don't forget the homie Tony East. Tony East, the homie.
Tony East, the homie. I completely forgot about Tony. Oh my goodness, but.
Wow,
that's not.
Wow.
I feel awful. I'm just completely befuddled. But like, just Caitlin does a really good job breaking down the stuff, like plays and everything else. Like she's been analyzing Rick Carlisle's offense in Dallas, and she's been connecting the threads between what the Pacers have been running in the summer league, and they're running a lot of Carlisle plays already. So it's gonna be tough in the grand scheme of like the coaching power rankings. If you want to do that, I think JB is at the bottom because you have Donovan, you have Budenholzer, who just won a championship, you have Carlisle, who's a championship caliber coach. I think Dwayne Casey's a pretty good coach, and JB Bickerstaff is a good coach in his own right. But like the Central Division's tough in terms of coaching, but. It's a good test for Mobley, like you said. I think Sabonis is hard because he has some of that stretchiness too. I think it's going to be tough for Allen as well. Like, you need to see if he can unlock that asset of his game. Miles Turner is a beast. They have Isaiah Jackson as well, which they just got in the draft. Like, that's really good. And then, like you said, Brogdon's interesting. LeVert's interesting. Like, there's a lot of unique pieces on this Pacers team, and I think Rick Carlisle could be the coach that make these pieces fit. And I'm intrigued to see how the Pacers look because they could arguably be B. I think Milwaukee's the best team in the Central Division, but the Pacers buy and. I mean, like, I'm really high on what the Pistons are doing, and I'm really high on Cade Cunningham. So, like, I'm intrigued by what the Pistons will look like. But like the Pacers could really widen the gap under Carlisle between them and Chicago for the second best team in the division, and like. I'm just really high on it. I think the Pacers, on top of the Bulls, were one of the more disappointing teams last season, and I'm interested to see where they go there. But, Chris, let me kill the mood real quick. You know how many sets of back-to-back games the Cavs have this year?
Oh, I read this in the press release. I don't know.
They have 15.
It's a lot.
They have a lot, and they have 3 oft-injured players in Kevin Love and Larry Nance Jr., and I'll throw in Dylan Windler as well because Windler is probably going to be a little bit part of the rotation next year, but Love and Nance will for sure be a part of the rotation, especially for that bench mob. They will probably have to rest some of these players on back-to-backs, Love especially, maybe Nance if he has some more injury bugaboos come up, but this road trip that is the hardest for the Cavs, in my opinion, starts when they play the Trailblazers in Portland, which historically they haven't played well in. And then they have to go to not Sacramento. They go to San Francisco to play Golden State, then Sacramento, then the Jazz, then San Antonio, and then they wrap things up in Oklahoma City, which is a tough place for Cleveland to play, but they played the Thunder well, and the Thunder aren't very good. The problem is the Cavs have 2 back-to-backs in this road trip where they have to play the Warriors and the Kings on a back-to-back, and then they have to play the Spurs and the Thunder on a back-to-back. Like, I think that's just a tough draw for the Cavs, and that's, I think, in about January or February, I think. So this is going to be really in the nitty-gritty when these games really start to count, because I think, especially in the Eastern Conference, with how like tuned up every other team is, we're going to have a clearer idea of where this Cleveland team sits. And if they're in the play-in hunt or even the playoff hunt, like this road trip could make or break their season. And especially with how like these players have to sit out, and there's going to be probably other players that are injured at that point. Like, this could be the brutal stretch where like people really overreact and think the sky is falling.
Well, I think can we talk about like the general like tenor of, well, maybe we should take another break. I think
we should.
We're about at that point, but I think after that break we should talk about the tenor of how, like, we have some questions, and we're going to get to, again, if you have questions, drop them below. We've already got some great ones we're going to get to.
We'll probably get to them in the second half hour of this.
Yes, but I think the next segment we should talk a little bit about the tenor of the gathering, because I have like a take that I'm going to uncork on here and workshop with you in real time, if that's cool. Let's just say, Evan, there's something that I'm working on that you know about.
Oh, yeah, I do.
That let's just say there's a draft of this that is going to be in there. It is inspired by a certain guitar smashing person that you and I are hopefully seeing in concert.
Dude, I'll seriously be so bummed out if I don't get tickets tomorrow morning. It's Phoebe Bridgers. Like, if you guys are listening, please don't be a narc. Don't like jump me in line. I really need this. I need a win this year.
Evan and I need to go to see Phoebe Bridgers at Jacobs Pavilion.
We're the first like quintillion-dollar podcast. We're gonna take the yacht, both yachts separately, and drive it up to the pavilion.
We can take
and
the Rolls
park
Royce to see the Gators, okay? But we can't go see. We just really need to see Phoebe Bridgers. But Evan, let's tell everyone about our friends at Built Bar. Look, Built Bar, best tasting protein bar ever. I had a coconut one today. It was great.
Sorry, I'm thinking about my joke before the show where I said they should make Built Bars for cats because my cat's been cultivating mass for the last year. For those who follow me on social, he's a thick boy with 2 C's, and if they made Built Bars for cats, Finnegan could be the mascot for it.
Yeah, it just jacked, like, plays football at BYU on a walk-on. Look, tons of great flavors: coconut, cherry barcia, raspberry, mint brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel, etc. Look, my favorite flavor right now, I got to go with the strawberry. It tastes like a chocolate-covered strawberry. I know Evan is a long-time fan of the cookies and cream. I think also a fan of the grasshopper cookie, if I'm not mistaken.
You are correct. The raspberry and strawberry ones are also good.
Yes.
If they made a blueberry one, the trifecta would be complete.
Okay. We're throwing out free ideas. Built Bar. Let's go. Let's get that humming there. A blueberry bar sounds incredible. Look, remember, not only are Built Bars the best tasting bars, but they're healthy too. 17 to 18 grams of protein. Calories ranging from 130 to 180, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Amazing flavors, all tasty and all healthy. Order today and get that raspberry, that mint brownie, that cookies and cream, or whatever it is you like. And remember, try a mixed box if you want to try them all. Built Bar is also the official protein bar of the U.S. Track and Field Team. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15, for 15% off at Built.com.
It's that time of year again, and all eyes are now turning to football as teams are back on the gridiron to start the football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. Get all the updated odds, props, and contests, including online's biggest $500,000 NFL mega contest and the world's largest $200,000, which is pocket change for Locked On Cavs, NFL Survivor contest open now at BetOnline. Head to their website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive a 100% welcome bonus, which is 50% more than what it's usually been. So this is a pretty good deal. Be sure to take advantage of their opening day super promo, which is make a bet on the Thursday, September 9th season opener between the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as the helmet is on Chris Manning's shelf, and the Dallas Cowboys, which is Carter Rodriguez, the only unverified host in the Cleveland Cavaliers podcast network that is a Cowboys fan. But if you lose, your wager will be refunded up to $25 for new customers only when signing up using the promo code NFL100. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, do not wait and take advantage of all the great offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts, and don't forget to use promo code LOCKEDON when signing up.
All right, so let's, by the way, if you're joining us, maybe you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to the Locked On Cavs YouTube channel. Let's boost those numbers up. Let's get us
back to 100.
Here. Yeah, unbelievable. So, Evan, I tend to think this is the take that I've been workshopping, and it's something that I think I've said in different ways before. I think that number one, I think Twitter is just a stupid website. Like, that it's just designed for people to yell at each other all the time. Number two, I tend to also think that the Cavs, the way they operate, they never really act like, they never show you anything in terms of how they talk about themselves. They always project that everything is fine, basically. Like, that it is just everything is cool.
It's the meme with the dog sitting in the burning room.
Yeah, that is the projection, and I think people latch onto that. I think when you nominate Colin Sexton a bajillion times for Player of the Week awards, people latch onto that. I think they do stuff.
Chris,
I think Colin Sexton is very good. You didn't need to nominate him for 900 Player of the Week and Player of the Month awards. That was just silly. I just think that was overkill. I think when frankly, when the tenor of the full-time coverage of the team is not exactly biting or critical or inquisitive, and it's just repeating team talking points, you create this ecosystem. I think the Cavs with the way people talk about them, it is I think I understand that you want to see your favorite team perhaps improve and get better and make strides. I also think when you think about what the last couple of years have been like, when you consider the mistake of the Kevin Love contract that it kind of hurts your ability to hit accelerate this summer in some ways and add shooting, which the team desperately needs to balance out the roster. When you moved on from the greatest player who will ever play for a franchise, I kind of think I think that we're at I think the tenor of Cavs conversation could really be more about we need the Cavs to evolve in some way as an organization. And I don't know what that, if it's ownership that has a play in this. I don't know if it's whatever it is. I tend to think there's one constant, and that constant, even if it is not as visible as it was, has a factor in this. I think there's just a point where I think of the way that we talk about the team, and I think maybe it's just people on Twitter, which is again a very stupid website, but I think there should be more of asking the Cavs to just kind of be a little more normal sometimes. That would go such a long way if the Cavs could just act normal for 6 months.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment.
The Cavs fans kind of have a complex where they just think they can tweet their way through fixing everything.
Yeah, that's a super duper frustrating issue that a lot of Cavs fans seem to deal with. They think that they want to hyper focus all the issues on random player of the day. Kevin Love's contract is really holding Cleveland back, but tweeting through your feelings about how much Kevin Love is ruining your experience, or making a Stan account dedicated to players, where especially one player thinks it's super freaking weird that you guys do that. The
least online player on the Cleveland Cavaliers
thinks
has
it's super
the most
weird.
Yeah, has the most online stand. It's quite weird.
Well, some of the more online players on the team too think some of the fan reactions, some of the more notorious accounts that have been around for such a long time that Ken Carmen even knows they're insane. Fans, I get it. That's fan. I'm not going to tell people how to be a fan. I'm not going to tell people how they can and can't do things and go about things. But I think people need to calm down a little bit. I get it. The Cavs are fun. A lot of people like were dyed-in-the-wool fans. It became dyed-in-the-wool fans because of those championship squads. Like, for those who listen to this show on a regular basis, like my real diehard fandom started when LeBron first left, and like I fell in love with like watching Samardo Samuels and Luke Herringody play. So I'm just a prisoner at this point, and I have that complex that I can't think of the name of right now. But irregardless, it's tough because I think the Cavs are a good team as presented. I think people getting offended that Bleacher Report didn't include them in their top 10 teams under 25 or whatever. Like, let's be honest here. The Cavs do have an impressive young core, but they have a lot they need to prove as well. And like you look at teams like Dallas who has Luka, or teams like Boston with it still blows my mind. Jason Tatum's so young, but like Jason Tatum.
It's nuts that he's like 16 years old,
I know, he keeps regressing. It's insane. Like, he's gonna be the first fetus that goes on the court eventually, but it's weird. Like, I'm not going to tell people how to be fans, but I think like the obsession with certain players is odd. But at the same time, I was the same way with Kyrie Irving. Like, I defended him to a T, but like this is before using the internet as a medium to do it. But like people would like tease me for rooting for the Cavs. I'm like, oh no, they're actually really fun to watch. You should check them out. I remember I would defend the Dion Waiters pick until I was blue in the face. But the moment he was traded to Oklahoma City, I was like, F that guy.
The worst thing I ever wrote was like basically a blog post, or maybe one of the first thing I wrote for Freeless were like talking myself into Dion Waiters.
I was stunned when they made that pick because I thought Harrison Barnes. I wanted Michael Kidd-Gilchrist.
I was not, for reasons that we can discuss off air, but I was not. I was pretty sure that's where it was going.
But you were doing more coverage of the team at this point, though, too. Like, I was a fan.
But
you wrote about the pick for Fear of the Sword, so
no. I talked myself into Dion Waiters like the first LeBron year.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I should have clarified. I will send you the piece because it was well done. Like, I got a best of SB Nation NBA tag, but like was not actually.
I love when I got those. I actually got a little emotional when my story about why the Cavs meant so much to me got the best of SB Nation tag. I'm like, oh, that's nice. But yeah, I'm not going to tell people how to be fans, but I just think the behavior is a little odd. I just don't think this team is worth so much time, energy, and focus. Like, that's a little hypocritical of me because I do this full time now for Bulletin. And at the same time, like, I just feel like you can use your energy in more positive ways. And I think the tribalism around players is a little weird. Like, there's just definitive camps where, like, you either pro this player or anti this player. There's no in between. Like, it's so black and white. I think people need to be more gray at this point.
Yeah, and I just think too, like, I think if there is a fan pressure on the Cavs to like just act a little, I think the Cavs in one like have to be the ones that evolve here, or else we're gonna keep repeating the cycle for the next 20 years.
Oh yeah,
like the Cavs have to evolve in some way, or else like they're just gonna remain this like very weird organization. Like, that's just the reality of it. They have to evolve in some way, and that doesn't mean like people need to like lose their jobs and like you need to bring in someone else. It means that like everyone needs to like not keep repeating the same cycle of like, let's hire a general manager from inside the office, let's like hire a crazy head coach hire that like we have to like then like
which one, like, Blatt or Baylor?
Well, I'm saying they've done this twice in a row. So like, is the next coaching hire going to be like the next like whoever like the next beeline is, and then but maybe like a younger one, like the younger model, and then like you have like Lloyd Pierce is like the lead associate head coach you're paying lots of money to, and then that guy will be the head coach in 18 months. Like you need to not do that again. You need to sort of like, I think actually the foundation, and Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Colin Sexton, Isaac Okoro, Jared Allen, like you have the young pieces that can push you in that direction if you can kind of get it there. And that's, I think, where we're at. And I think that's what makes this such an interesting season, and not something where like we need to force expectations, I think, on that. I am just so of the mind that like they might be really frisky and interesting this year in a lot of ways. I also like don't think it is crazy to think that they are still like a year away from really being like interesting. I think they need like an early year of like cooking to kind of like figure this out a little bit. I don't think that's bad. I think it's just the reality of like you lose LeBron James, you have no money to spend on veteran upgrades. Evan Mobley like needs to gain some weight. Like everyone's really young. Like you're just in a position where like it's gonna take time, and like that's okay. if you acknowledge that, that is actually a good thing. Anyway, that is as ornery as I'm going to get today.
Well, I don't really think that's ornery of a take or as hot of a take at this point. It's tough because I think it's such a risky proposition for Kobe Altman and in turn JB Bickerstaff, because I think these two are linked together in tandem. And if this team underperforms, I think JB will be the first to go.
But this is the problem. If you start making decisions to this is the inherent nature that becomes really hard in running a sports team. When you start making decisions to save your own skin, the team will pay for them when you are not there. And it will take a really good general manager, a really good coach to coach and GM around that. So it's just a really good way. I think we got a comment I want to say from Jesse, and then I think we should go into the next segment and take some of these great questions. Again, so hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, but also leave great questions in the chat on YouTube. So here's just a comment I think from Jesse that is very apt. He writes, "Vets weren't coming here anyways. Drafting and developing is all that can save this franchise. Front office is a problem. We need to be a play in this year." I think there's some there is some dissonance in those comments. I think there are 2 points arguing with each other there, but that's maybe that's an episode we can kind of do later on. But Evan, before we dive into the next edition of the show, I want to tell everyone about Thursdays on Locked On NBA. Thursday's Locked On NBA and podcast with Jackson Gatlin and Matt Moore have game recaps and analysis of the biggest NBA headlines. Follow the Locked On NBA podcast today wherever you get podcasts. That include YouTube and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Okay, Evan, so let's take some questions.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's obviously like we've been live this whole time. So, all right, first question is just from ODOT. And it's
there's the thick boy. He's just in the background, but anyways, yeah.
Okay, here's the question: Cam Reddish space ? That's the question.
No, I don't think he's coming to Cleveland because Atlanta's asking price is hella high, from what I've gathered, and I think the Cavs would have to give up a very lightly protected first round pick next year, and I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze necessarily.
Here's the other thing about this that I think is sort of tricky. I understand why Cam Reddish might appeal to you, but here's the other problem with trading for a guy coming on off a rookie contract like that. You are in a position where Darius Garland is extension eligible next season. Cam Reddish will be extension eligible after next season. Colin Sexton is extension eligible. Jared Allen just signed a big extension. You're 2 years away from Nance and Okoro being rookie extension eligible. Nance, I think his contract ends in 2 years. Yes, Kevin Love's money comes off the books. Yes, Cedi Osman's money comes off the books and that kind of stuff. But you cannot really pay another young guy that is good. You have a limit. There's a salary cap. I don't know if you're going to be a massive luxury tax team to pay for a bunch of a really young team like that. That would be sort of unique in the NBA. I tend to think you're probably if you're going to add a piece like that via trade, it's going to be a more veteran established, cost controlled piece. Because I don't know I don't know if adding another contract that you have to then negotiate is really something that makes a ton of sense from a roster building standpoint. I think Cam Reddish is interesting, but
no, Cam Reddish is super interesting. I like his defensive upside. I know he's a player the Cavs have liked for a little while now too, especially in the draft. I don't think they were considering him at 5th overall when they took Darius Garland. But yes, Michael Gritchman. I'm gonna pop this question up real quick. The shirts were intentional, but at the same time, the extension stuff is tough. I think that just makes it really hard too. I think the Cavs want to try and maximize the return a little bit, and I think you look at a team like Memphis, you look at Kyle Anderson, you look at Dylan Brooks, we can talk about those two. We're gonna have Sean Coleman on pretty soon to talk about that actually from the Grizzlies' perspective and see what he realistically thinks is a fair offer. But the Cavs' ammunition right now to make a trade upgrade on the wing is Larry Nance Jr. because they cannot trade Kevin Love's contract and they have a surplus of 4s, and Larry is probably the most intriguing player that could be available because I don't think any of the young players are really touchable in this situation. The 2022 first round pick, but it's going to have protections on it because this Cavs team's probably going to be bad and they want to maintain their eligibility to draft a player in next year's draft. And then an interesting little nugget is the 2022 second round pick via Houston, which is as good as a late first rounder, but there's less guarantees on it. So that could be an interesting nugget too. But I just don't know if Cam Reddish really moves the needle. Like, yeah, he'd be a lot of fun for this Cavs team. The shooting concerns kind of turn me off a little bit. I think the Cavs really need perimeter shooting more than anything when it comes to wing depth. But if they swung for him, I wouldn't be upset. It's just another contract that the Cavs have to, commit to long term. Like Chris said, like they have a lot of money coming up on the books that they kind of need to figure out, and maybe getting a cost controlled veteran that can just kind of be the filling of this sandwich that will be the Cleveland Cavaliers payroll. It makes a lot more sense. That's just kind of where I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's just like how you can only negotiate like so many extensions. And even let's talk about Larry for a second. Larry Nance is like a good NBA player, a pretty solid NBA player when he's healthy. Has really expanded his game. I think if you put him in like Phoenix, I think if you put him in a bunch of different title winning situations where he's like the seventh man, eighth man, like he would be like a real impact in a playoff series. I think the problem would be I don't know if he's like getting you more than like a late first. I don't know if he's getting you more than like an young player. Like I don't think if that is like the trade asset you're making, and like you're trading him because you just like feel like you need to make a move and you're trying to make change up your roster in some way. Like I don't know if that really is like the kind of thing I would do to sort of like it doesn't make sense to me to like just do that for like the sake of like a wing upgrade and then overpay to maybe get that wing upgrade, right? Like I think that is like sort of like Larry Nance is good. I would rather just like buy out Kevin Love and then like roll the dice. Like I think like it makes much more sense to like just buy out Kevin Love. Your front court is Mobley, Allen, Nance, Dean Wade. Great. Okay. It's fine with me. You roll the dice on internal improvement and like a wing you get on a minimum deal. I think that is like much more sound in terms of not like robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Mm-hmm.
You making sure your thick cat isn't getting into the Built Bars?
No. He sits in the corner and sometimes bites on the cable of the lamp. So if you hear me mute myself and watch me clapping in the distance, that's why. But either way, no, the Built Bars are safe. Don't worry. Like those are precious cargo, if you will. But it's tricky though. Like I would like Cam Reddish. I would. I just think I would rather not Cleveland run into the similar situation Atlanta's running into now, where they have to start paying all these young players. Like Memphis is going to run into the same issue soon too, where they have to start paying all these young players. Like, yeah, building through the draft with multiple picks is smart if you're a small market team like Memphis or like Cleveland. But eventually, because you're a small market team, you may have to pay extra to retain these players, and it really sucks to lose these players in free agency that you spent all this time, energy, and effort developing, that you don't have to start consolidating your assets a little bit. And yeah, like you said, Larry Nance is really good, and I think he'd be really good on a contender, but I also just don't see the rush for the Cavs to move him either.
Yeah. Notably also another clutch sports guy, which the Cavs have a lot of.
Larry Nance is a clutch
guy.
I should
say, no. Cam Reddish, excuse me, is a clutch guy.
Cam Reddish. Okay. So like Larry Nance is Excel.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, no more free ads for agents.
No free ads for agents. Ethan Sherwood-Strauss is gonna DDoS our stream. So
yes.
Evan, we have a question from EJ272. What's the story on someone? you want to take a break?
Yeah, let's pay some bills.
Oh, sorry, EJ. We'll be back.
Yeah, we'll be right back. That's a good tease. We're going to tell everyone again about our friends at Sweatblock. Look, Sweatblock is the antiperspirant wipe that can keep you from sweating and wrecking
time out.
that. What?
We've been streaming for almost 45 minutes. I have put Sweatblock on beforehand. I'm wearing a gray t-shirt. Bone dry, baby.
Yeah, so am I. I don't know if you could tell that I'm also wearing a gray t-shirt.
Yeah, but like that's our indicator. As a sweaty guy, wearing gray and not having to worry about showing sweat marks is a dream come true.
That's right. Look, sometimes people don't know this. Like sometimes you gotta like make sure your AC isn't blowing and you're recording a podcast because you want the audio to be good and you're willing to suffer for that. So it is what it is.
I feel like I'm being called out right now, but I shut off my AC a while ago.
Yes.
And my ceiling fan.
Look, Evan, we don't want to worry about sweating here on Locked On Cavs.
No,
we want to be clean. I wish I would have had this in Las Vegas when I was walking around at Summer League and like sweating all the time. This is why Sweatblock antiperspirant wipes are a go-to. They are stronger and more effective than most clinical antiperspirants. You simply apply it at night before bed, go to bed, and then the next morning you wake up, wash, and go about your day without worrying about sweat. That's a guarantee. This sounds too good to be true, I know, but only have to use Sweatblock once or twice a week, and it keeps me dry the whole time. No more pitting out, no more picking my shirts based on which one will hide sweat better. I mean, that's just a win for your wardrobe, for the drip. If you or someone you love is dealing with this, you have to check out Sweatblock. Again, get it today for 20% off at CVS.com, or excuse me, at sweatblock.com with promo code Locked On, and it is also available at Amazon and CVS.
Today's episode, or I should say this stream and episode of Locked On Cavs, is brought to you by our friends at DirecTV. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
Okay, Evan. So read me this question.
I'm pulling it up on stream right now. EJ272 asks us via YouTube, what's the story on someone like Stanley Johnson? Is he a free agent? And if not, what's the trade value for someone like him? Last I checked, he is a free agent. I think he's unrestricted. He was last with Toronto, where he appeared in 61 games, started in 31, and 16.5 minutes per game, had 4.4 points, 2.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists, almost a steal, almost half a block. Stanley Johnson's career has been a little odd, I'd say. Never really panned out in Detroit. Definitely did not pan out this time in New Orleans. Like, it was a fun 18 games he had at the Pelicans. Toronto, he was a little bit of an interesting pickup. I was bullish on the Cavs kind of taking a stab at him before he signed with the Raptors, but I just don't think he's necessarily been that reliable for Toronto. And, like, it's kind of like the Rondae Hollis-Jefferson situation. Again, another player I thought the Cavs could take a look at if they wanted to get an older wing that could provide a little bit of size at the 3 and the 4. But let's say the Cavs signed Stanley Johnson to like a non-guaranteed Alfonso McKinney, Mfiondu Kabengele contract situation where it's not non-guaranteed, and they can kind of just roll with it. If it works out, you keep him around. If it doesn't, it's an easy cut. Like, I wouldn't be upset if the Cavs did that. Like, he plays defense. He cannot shoot at all, so it doesn't really answer the shooting problems, but he has some tertiary playmaking. He drew comps to Andre Iguodala coming out of Arizona, which is lofty comparisons, but there's something there. I think there might be a little upside. Maybe, just maybe, like, knowing that his basketball life is on the line, you risk a player from Stanley Johnson, because, like, his biggest thing was, like, he just didn't care. Like, he was lazy, I think, is the biggest gripe against him.
Yeah. Can I tell you who I think would be like a more? I'm double checking right now that he's still a free agent, but a name that I think would make much more sense because he can shoot and is at least like a little bit of a defender, and I think could be like a bigger version of like what Damian Dotson kind of was last year.
What's that? Who?
James Ennis III.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. He's a little older, but
31. That's like, that's in our roughly age range.
Let's just stop that talk right now.
Last year,
that negativity to the chat.
Has been with Orlando the last 2 seasons. Hasn't played a ton. Has only played like the most he's ever played in the NBA was 64 games back in 2016-17. But last year, 43.3% from 3. Has never shot that well necessarily in his other seasons, but like I would just say like roll the dice on that, like that. But this is the kind of thing, it's like minimum guys that you just kind of can like get now for like very affordable prices. Like you're bargain bin shopping right now.
Yeah.
Well, Evan, let me ask you this. I guess just because I kind of put my stamp on that take earlier. Like, would you prefer the route of like trading for wing help, who it is, like Dylan Brooks, Slomo, whomever, and like giving up stuff to get that immediate wing help, or are you comfortable with where I think I would go, which like don't tap into future assets, try to rehabilitate some stuff, sign a really cheap option, and see if you can get a 1-year stopgap.
Maybe a little bit of both. Like Sekou Doumbouya could be a rehabilitation option for Cleveland. I think he could be a target with that Houston second rounder if the Cavs aren't, fully sold on taking a stab on him. But like, I think guys on the minimum contracts or non-guaranteed deals. Like I think Svi Mikhailiuk makes sense. I think Alfonso McKinney makes sense. McKinney has familiarity with the organization. He can shoot. He can play defense. Like I don't think he's actually a harmful player if you put him on the floor. I was really big on Iggy Brazdeikis for a while, but he signed a 2-way deal with Orlando, so that one's off the table at this point. So there's options out there for the Cavs, but I think you should explore both avenues at the same time because Cleveland has such a need on the perimeter and they have one roster spot. So let's say they do open roster spot at least. So let's say they do flip a player. Let's say it's Larry Nance Jr. and they don't have to give up a ton for, let's say, Kyle Anderson or Dylan Brooks or something like that. Like it's not like a huge cost for the Cavs. Like if you do that and then you sign one of those guys on a cheaper contract, like I'd be pretty satisfied with Cleveland's off season then because people are going to be frustrated because Taurean Prince, when healthy, was a quality rotation wing in the NBA and in Cleveland, and trading him for Ricky Rubio seemed a little reductive, but Ricky Rubio was a big upgrade at a position in need as well because the Cavs have never had a stable, healthy backup point guard for Darius Garland. And I think Rubio is going to do a lot of good for the Cavs next year too. But I still agree that addressing the wing issue is a problem. So I think I do a little bit of both. And I know like you're more so signing a cheap option, maybe a rehab option. But there might be a rehab option out there they could do with the trade that doesn't really hurt the bottom dollar at the point. Like Doumbouya wouldn't be bad.
Is Doumbouya a wing though? Is he just another 4?
He's a 3-4. He's a 3-4.
Is he though?
Chris,
is he though?
I'm gonna look up how big he is.
And let's move on to another question while you're doing that. This is from our friend Nick Trezino from Fear the Sword. Do you guys have a favorite non-Cavs arena to visit? So I'm gonna give you this answer in terms of the 2 that I really like, and then the one that I really want to go to. The 2 that I really want to go to. I really like, this is like the obvious answer, love Madison Square Garden. I think it is historic, iconic, great. I've only been there once, but I also liked the Barclays because I just like New York. I like New York quite a bit. The 2 that I want to go to the most, I would say, I'm not gonna say Staples because that's just like the most obvious. I would really like to go to TD Garden because I think Boston is like this historic thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say I would probably say Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto's a good pick.
I think Toronto and like Milwaukee would be like something that just like a cool fan vibe.
Fiserv is such a cool arena.
Yeah.
I can see where the Cavs drew some inspiration from some of the Art Deco stuff because a lot of their artwork and statues are like from local artists that are deer themed, if that makes sense. And like, I think it's neat that Fiserv is designed to look like a beer barrel on the outside, laying on its side, which is an homage to Milwaukee's history as like the beer capital of the United States. But like Fiserv's neat. I think Bankers Life Fieldhouse is like one of the nicest arenas in the league. Like it's so cool looking because it's an old train station that they remodeled into a actual field house. Like I know the Cavs like to call themselves Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, but like Bankers Life is an actual field house. Like that one's cool. Fiserv's cool. Little Caesars Arena is really nice too. Where the Bulls play, I always forget their name, but like that arena is nice too. Like the Central Division has a nice set of arenas. The Moda Center in Portland is pretty neat. I would like to visit the new arena the Warriors have in San Francisco because it's just stupidly expensive and like they put a lot of money into that. So I'd just be intrigued to see what that's like. Barclays is cool. Madison Square Garden's iconic. There's a lot of good arenas in the league. I think teams kind of using the threat to leave has really put a precedence on some cities to kind of make it happen.
Unfortunately,
especially smaller markets.
I will say that
Memphis used to have a cool arena because it was a pyramid, but now
Yeah.
the pyramid's a Bass Pro Shop, which is just yeah.
That just reminds me of the great Frank Ocean song "Pyramids." Number one arena I want to go to that doesn't currently exist is whenever Seattle gets the team back.
Yeah, that'll be cool too. That'll be really cool. I wish I wish I could have gone for when the Warriors played their preseason game in Seattle because the footage of that was nuts. Especially when Kevin Durant came out, and I think in a Sean Kemp jersey, right?
Yes, Evan. Is there a stadium, regardless of sport, that you would like to go to?
Regardless of sport.
I
I'd like to go to Lambeau. Lambeau would be cool.
Lambeau is my NFL one. Camp Nou, which is Barcelona in Spain, just because it's historic and iconic. And I've been to a couple ones in England, and then I think Wrigley or Maccabi Cove for baseball.
Yeah, Wrigley would be cool. I mean, InfoCision Stadium is pretty nice too. You know, it's home to like the best team in the MAC. James A. Road Arena as well. If you know the city of Akron ever approves the downtown arena plan, it'll be a nice upgrade. But the Jar has its charms. It's just named after a very shitty governor.
Can I get you on the? I want to get you on the record right now. You and I are going to Akron, Ohio this year in Akron. Whenever that is,
yeah,
you and I gotta go. You and I gotta go. Can we shake on this over this YouTube?
Shake on it, and now that we shake on it, let's take a quick break and read some ads, pay some bills.
Yes. Look, we're going to tell everyone again about our friends at Built Bar. Honestly, probably should have brought a Built Bar for the stream because we're just powering along deep into this live stream here on Locked On Cavs. Look, Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the market.
Could be the face of Built Bar. Look at him.
Oh my God.
This poor guy was just eating, minding his own business. Back to you go.
Oh my God. You could get a cherry barcia, a raspberry, a mint brownie, double chocolate, a salted caramel, a strawberry, an orange, cookies and cream, or if you want to try them all, just get a mix box, get 2 of each of the flavors, and maybe be on alerts in case they drop a new one. Not only are Built Bars the best tasting, but they're healthy too. Check out their macros. 1782 grams of protein, calories ranging from 130 to 180, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, 4 to 5 grams of net carbs, amazing flavors, all tasty and all healthy. Order today. Get that mint brownie, that cherry barcia, or whatever it is you like. And remember, Built Bar is the official protein bar of the U.S. track and field team. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com.
It's that time of year again, and all eyes are now tuning to football as teams are back on the gridiron to start the football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. Get all the updated odds, props, and contests, including the internet's biggest $500,000 NFL mega contest and the world's largest $200,000 NFL Survivor contest, open now at BetOnline. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive a 100% welcome bonus. I almost said 50% because it's just, I'm so used to saying it.
Don't cheat the listeners, Evan.
Not going to cheat the listeners. Got to give the people what they want. Be sure to take advantage of their opening day super promo. Make a bet on the Thursday, September 9th season opener between the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys. And if you lose, your wager will be refunded up to $25 for new customers only when signing up and using promo code NFL100. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, do not wait and take advantage of all the great offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts, and don't forget to use the promo code LOCKEDON when signing up.
That's right. All right, Evan, let's move on. Here's a comment from Josh Z that I want to dive into a little bit here. He writes, Cavs could have used Prince over Rubio, could have used the full mid-level on a PG. So I want to say that I don't think that take is without merits, right? Like I don't think that take is necessarily incorrect. What I will say is this. Number one, Prince's injury history is a little dicey. I think the Cavs really are prioritizing Rubio's smarts, leadership, kind of like the veteran presence in the locker room that I think they need. I think Rubio's going to provide that at a level that few kind of role players in the league are going to provide. If you can get him to buy in, it's one of the bigger questions I think about kind of what kind of buy-in can you get from Rubio in this kind of situation, considering what he kind of stated he wants last year. I also just don't know if they actually could have gotten the kind of point guard that I think they would have liked with the woman level. The market does not bear that out as a fact, and who we've talked to, I think, doesn't really. I think it's like Caruso got a bunch of money. wasn't really interested in Cleveland. TJ McConnell got a lot of money. Like, yes, Rubio like has some injury concerns in the past as well. That's fair, but also like last year was contract. Like, you're not eating up your future cap. I kind of get the calculus they made in doing this.
Yeah, I do too. And for what it's worth, like the full mid level is 9.8 million, correct?
Somewhere around there, yeah. It's roughly that, yeah.
So for the deal, Caruso signed with Chicago. Roughly, he's making 9.25. Let's just round up to 9.3 million annually with the Bulls. And TJ McConnell signed a 4-year extension worth 35.2 million with the Pacers. That's 8.8 million annually. If you just do it flat over 4 years, it could be increasing, decreasing, whatever. I kind of alluded to this on the show before. Chris and I have alluded to this on social before. Like, the Cavs have had conversations with a lot of these prominent free agents throughout this process. It's just they will elect to sign with better teams for either less money, or they will price out Cleveland because they can get another team to pay them a lot more. Like, Doug McDermott got paid handsomely by the Spurs. Like, the Cavs couldn't match that. The Bulls have a chance to be a pretty good to very good team in the Eastern Conference next year. So if I was Alex Caruso, I'd rather take that, especially after playing for the Lakers and playing for a championship caliber team for 2 years with LeBron. Like, 3 years, I should say. Sorry. I'd rather sign with Chicago. McConnell is probably going to get a lot of burn and a lot of run in Indiana under Rick Carlisle, and also it's a situation he's familiar with, and I think the Pacers really wanted to keep him as well because he is very useful to what they're trying to build. But at the same time, like, I point to the JaVale McGee trade a lot last year. That was such a smart trade on the Cavs' part, where they packaged the non-guaranteed deals of McKinney and Jordan Bell, R.I.P. to the Cleveland Dog himself, to get JaVale McGee and a second-round pick for their troubles. And then they took JaVale McGee and flipped him for Isaiah Hartenstein and an additional second-round pick. Like, the Cavs do make good moves when working the margins like this. I think there is a sense of urgency for sure to try and get a wing. Maybe they guarantee the contracts of Cavaliers, or they use Dean Wade's upside as well and guarantee his contract next year. I think it is guaranteed at this point, or it's like a Lamar Stevens situation too. Like, you could bundle these players together again, maybe include like a second rounder or something to kind of like grease the wheels a little bit on this trade and make something happen, because like you have like these fringe rotation guys that probably won't play much, if not at all, next year for Cleveland. Like, I still firmly believe Cavaliers, if they don't make any moves, will be the backup 5 as like the 11th or 12th man for Cleveland next year. Which people were super upset when I suggested that idea, but whatever. But I don't know. Prince's injury history scares me. I think he was really good for the Cavs when he was healthy, but we have such a small sample size that I can't take full stock of that either. And I look at like the entire length of his NBA career, and it starts to give me pause a little bit. I hope he works out in Minnesota. I hope everything works out great for him, but it's just, like Rubio's injury history is something to consider too. But I think I have more faith in him staying healthy in Cleveland in limited minutes than I do Taurean Prince, because the Cavs have to lean on Prince a lot more than they will Rubio.
And again, I think the Rubio leadership part of it is just something like, I think Prince is like a good dude by all accounts. I just think Rubio like might be like, take the young guys under my wing. Like, look, go Google like what he did with Anthony Edwards and like tell me that the Cavs don't need that. They need that kind of guy.
Phoenix is like, oh my God, we have an actual point guard on this roster. I'm not saying the Cavs are going to go trade for Chris Paul the following year, but it looked pretty good with Ricky Rubio starting for them.
Yeah, I think like if you want to like quibble, it's like I don't want to get into like this too deep. I wonder if there wasn't someone that they could have just like tried to throw the full middle lab in terms of a wing option. Like I cannot believe that like so much of Josh Hart's contract is non-guaranteed. Like, that kind of blows my mind in a lot of ways.
It's a goofy deal for sure.
But we thought that about Jetty too. Evan, do you want to do one more question? Do you have some takes you want to fire off as we kind of get towards the end of our stream here? We do have a Jetty question from Nick that we could do, and it kind of end on that.
Yeah, let's end on that, but then I'll have a question for you when we're done.
Sounds great. All right, so Nick asks, and follow Nick on Twitter at Trizweino. It's TRIZWEINO. I believe he's always writing great stuff for the sort. So go follow him and check him out.
Great dude.
Great dude. Where are you on Jetty moving forward? Is he a rotation player on a play-in playoff team? So I'm just going to answer this in a very simple way. I think it is possible he can be rehabilitated. 38% on three-pointers 2 years ago, like 40% on catch and shoot, has shown some playmaking, was willing to compete at defense. Last year was just an objectively awful season of basketball, was maybe the worst defender on the Cavs, shot under 30% from three, looked really disengaged, got benched. This is a make or break year for him in terms of like what he is in the NBA, I think. And I'll be curious to see like what he looks like coming into the year. I don't know. I think there's a chance he can still kind of like even it out a little bit, but he's got a lot to prove, I think is the note here.
Yeah, I think Jetty does have a lot to prove. He definitely had the hook pulled on him a little bit heading towards the end of the season last year, where the coaching staff just kind of wanted him to chill out a little bit and not be so much of a gunner. If the Cavs are able to encourage and incorporate, I almost merge those two words together, to some of the stuff he does in the Turkish play, like I think that's pretty good for him. The Jetty Osman career arc is fascinating for sure, but I think he is going to be a part of Cleveland's rotation, at least to start next season, because they need to rehabilitate him as a player, because from what I've gathered, Jetty is just like an asset that does not move the wheels at all in any trade.
He has no trade value. There's no reason there is no reason that a team that like maybe wants to spend money next summer should just eat Jetty Osman's contract. Like it's not like an albatross, but it's not like a good deal. Like it's not it's positive value right now.
Man, remember we talked about that deal and we're like, what is his agent doing? And then here we are now.
I still kind of don't understand the non-guarantee. Like I would love to understand that.
Maybe Kobe Altman can see into the future. Who knows? But
well, it's interesting that Altman, by my understanding, was the guy that like often was like communicating with him and visiting him in Turkey.
Yeah, like that was like under David Griffin was like one of the international scouts found Jetty and like encouraged Griff to trade back into the second round to take this kid, and it worked out. I mean, like honestly, Jetty Osman is a win if you look at where he was picked, and considering what the Cavs didn't really give up anything to acquire him, like it's a win that you developed a rotation quote unquote wing out of that. But I think he's going to be part of the rotation next year, because if you look at it, you have Garland, Sexton, Okoro, Mobley, Allen as your 5. And then you have Nance, Love for sure, Rubio for sure getting minutes. That's 8. And then I can't reliably say Dylan Windler is going to play, so maybe you have Jetty Osman as like your 9th man in the rotation, 8th or 9th, depending on Rubio's availability, because there is injury concerns with him. And then you like focus on like the Windler and the Kabengales and the Lamar. Lamar Stevens could even bump Jetty in the rotation too. Well, Jetty could be the 10th man for all.
Well, I think that the reality of this, that all these guys should get chances, and I think who looks good in training camp and preseason is going to get the first crack, because the Cavs need someone to play minutes on the wing. I don't think they want to play Larry. I think they might like do some Larry at the 3 stuff, but I don't think that is something they want to do like so much that he has to play like 40 minutes tonight just to patch up the rotation. Like I don't think the Cavs want to have to run
minutes at the 3, but he can't.
Yeah, it's gonna be yeah. My vibe is that it's gonna be more like matchup dependent than like. So Evan, we've done this before, but I just want to because we're doing this live, maybe people didn't listen to that episode. Can you just give me your ranking on Stevens, Osman, and Windler? Who do you have most faith in making an impact in the NBA next season? Who would you bet will be the most effective player next season?
He said in that order: Stevens, Osman, and Windler. Like Lamar Stevens isn't actively harmful. Jetty Osman, I think, is health-wise more reliable than Windler. And if Dylan Windler can stay healthy and the Cavs can give him looks on the perimeter, bump him up a little bit. But it's a big factor on him staying healthy.
I've talked myself into Jetty being just because he can theoretically shoot.
Yeah, I mean Lamar can shoot.
But my official reaction is this.
Yeah, it's the shrug emoji. Like, it's straight up. That's all it is. And, like, I'm not going to stress too much over this. This is, like, end of rotation minutes for the Cavs. Like, they have a pretty set rotation at this point.
But it's also important because, like, they need quality wing minutes and, like, shooting. Like, if Dylan Windler could show up and play 18 minutes a game and shoot threes, massive win for the team. He could do nothing else but, like, shoot threes well, and that would be helpful.
Oh, absolutely. And it's also a win because the 26th overall pick performing like that. Like, I just think watching Kevin Porter Jr. play so well with Houston is going to leave a really sour taste in fans' mouth, because either he'd be starting for the Cavs at this point or he would still be the bench wing like that. Like KPJ answered so many questions of what this Cavs team needed last year, and it's a shame how things ended, and I think things are going to be better for him in Houston for sure. But
I mean, we got to see the hierarchy there because like they drafted Josh Christopher. Like there's some questions for him there too in some ways. So
for sure,
it's complicated.
it's always complicated. But I think Jetty will be a part of the rotation next year. Like you said, I think the shooting upside is interesting. But if he performs well in camp, performs well in preseason, it's easier for me to sink my teeth in him saying like, okay, he is the primary backup to Isaac Okoro and possibly play spot minutes of the 2 and maybe even the 4 if the Cavs want to go small. So it's not the end of the world.
It would be. I would kind of want to see like just for fun, like for like one game. I just because I'm a masochist sometimes. I would want to see like Sexton, Rubio, Osman, Okoro, like Nance. Just give me some weird small ball. There's just like some weird lineups. I don't know what it wouldn't make of them, but I want to see.
Sorry, I'm unpacking that lineup in real time. That's why I'm making that face.
So Sexton and Rubio is going to be like the duo I think you're playing Rubio with because I think it's just like makes sense in terms of playmaking. Osman is like that can run some like your 3 Okoro as a small ball 4 and play Nance as a small ball 5.
Yeah, or
do Nance and Mobley. I don't know. I don't care. I just want to.
Why not? The Cavs are going to finish close to dead last in the East again. Why not do something fun along the way?
But it's just like I can talk myself into, and the Cavs are going to have to try to do this and see if it works. Is like Osman as like a secondary creator because that's like one of the things he should be good at and has always been better at internationally and not in the NBA. And Rubio around Sexton is like defensively like, but like offensively like kind of makes some sense.
Yeah, it does. It makes a ton of sense.
But is this likely to work?
You don't know until you try. I mean, hey, maybe they'll catch some team off guard like they did Miami with Larry Nance at the 3 and caught me off guard watching from home. So,
Evan, let's end here. You have a question for me though, so let's do that.
Are you a candle guy?
I love a nice candle. When I get off this,
are you a Bath and Body guy?
Yeah.
Well, specifically, what's your scent right now?
Specifically, I should say my wife is a Bath and Body.
I mean, I am one to have wallflowers in his apartment. I've been burning gingham during this, and oh god, it smells so good. I was just wondering.
I'm gonna ask my wife what our favorite scent is real quick. We had ODOT asked us about Ben Simmons, so let's talk about Ben Simmons and vamp about that for a second.
I mean, yeah, if the Cavs can trade for Ben Simmons and tell him he's a 3-4 instead of a 1, why not? Like, I think Ben Simmons really raises the ceiling of this Cavs team really fast and really puts them in that playing conversation / playoff conversation. But the theoretical fit with Isaac Okoro, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen is messy, to say the least.
I think I can talk myself into a talent play is the thing.
Yeah, you can talk yourself into a talent play, but like Darius Garland is going to be absolutely furious with the spacing around him if like the starting 5, because if it's a Ben Simmons trade, I think you're shooting Colin Sexton at this point. It would be the starting 5 would then be Sexton, Okoro, Simmons, Mobley, Allen. I know Mobley can theoretically shoot it eventually. I know Okoro is trying to shoot a little bit more from 3, but he had pretty much had the same numbers as he did during the regular season last year. And Allen attempted 3s, but Ben Simmons is also terrified of it. But hey, maybe he channels the spirit of Tristan Thompson and just becomes a gunner for Cleveland.
Do you remember? I love Lee Jenkins and miss his running a lot.
I do too.
Do you remember the Tristan Thompson shooting with his other hand story? I have that SI somewhere in my office right now. I have like a stack of all the SIs, and like I have like the one with like where OU, where like they profiled the Ohio football team the year they were ranked, and I have that Tristan Thompson one. I think I have a Kyrie one as well, and then the title commemorative issue. I think
I don't have any of that laying around, but yeah, I remember that. I remember that was a huge talking point, especially on NBA 2K, about Tristan Thompson switching his shooting hands for the longest time.
Yeah. All right, so let's wrap it up there. According to my wife, our current favorite scent is pumpkin apple.
Oh, you guys are starting to fall in August? How dare you? September is next week.
Leanne, my wonderful wife, was like, Chris, pumpkin drinks are at Starbucks because I like the pumpkin cold brew.
Oh.
It was a nice little, and I've had a pumpkin like oat creamer in my fridge for like a week.
That's fair.
I love fall. I'm so over the heat.
Dude, I'm so over the heat. I'm so over this weather.
Can I just say, when you and I are in Jacob's, where I'm manifesting this, when you and I are at Jacob's Pavilion. Wait, I'm not talking SHIT, okay? Don't come at me. She thinks she's asking. Well, she thinks asking if you were talking that. But
nah.
When you and I are at Phoebe Bridgers, Okay. If it is steamy and muggy, I'm gonna be pissed.
I'm gonna be a little annoyed too.
I'm gonna be like, why am I like? I need it to be cold. I need it to be like a little like moody. I can't have like. It doesn't feel right, you know?
No, it doesn't. But hey, if we have to
Leanne,
sweat through it, we can check out our friends at Sweat Block. But we should probably wrap it up here before Chris gets a divorce. We will be doing these more often. So thank you for everyone who joined. Thank you, everyone, for the questions. We'll be back soon with more Locked On Cavs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Yep. Thanks to Built Bar, Sweat Block, Bet Online, and DirecTV. Look at that. Look at DirecTV coming in. Again, $10 billion podcast. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon. Hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts.
Peace.